So I'd like to take you back to the days when you decided to enter this career, to pursue this career. And so in particular, I'd like to ask you, when and how did you decide to become?
As far back as I can remember, I've always wanted to be either in, and this was my main industry I wanted to be in. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But as far back as I can remember, when Cinderella was on at the movies, when we had the book, I would always have it read to or read it, or just flick through to see her dresses, especially when Disney does her dresses and how she changes, she transforms. And then my mum used to make a mini version of whatever she made back in the 70s for me when I was little. So I had like the little purple dress with orange flowers, and she had the matching. I used to hate that. But that then got me into the sewing. And then when I remember, I think it was year 4 or year 5, we had to design something on a t-shirt, and back then it was trendy to have the seams on the outside, so I bought the t-shirt, turned it inside out, and I remember everyone having a go at me saying, "Why you got it inside out?" So I always used to follow trends like that. Always wanted to, even though I was quite a dag back then, because I dressed how my mother dressed me because I had no money. As soon as I started earning an income, I would always be looking at the trends. So regardless of the fact that pointy shoes made my feet look bigger, it was in fashion back then. Puffy sleeves, big shoulder pads, that sort of gives it away in my teenage years, what era I was in, acid wash jeans. And I knew I always wanted to be in fashion. Any spare money I had, I started working at the news agency, where there were certain magazines I could actually take for free. If you wanted to tear the cover off, I'd buy 2. I'd buy one, and one would be given to me. So one I could chop up and do things with. The other one I would keep, and I had like a whole series of studio magazines like Studio Australia.
Can I just ask, what is it that draws you to the fashion?
I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard. Like even when we went, Tahana and I, my daughter and I went to watch Moulin Rouge recently, I was disappointed that I sat us so far back, because I just so desperately wanted to see how the costumes were made, how they were put together. I think it's every aspect of it. I hate making day-to-day clothing, boring clothing. I only like doing things that are over the top, eccentric, different, avant-garde. You might have feathers, it has to be artistic. So I love doing dresses where, so I've got that niche market. So I'm not doing mass production, I'm not doing this same dress in multiple sizes. I had the option to do that. I had the opportunity, I had two bridal houses, one in Sydney and one in Melbourne, asked me to do exactly that. And I couldn't think of anything worse than being, I would feel like a robot where you're just on a production line just making the same thing.
So it's the creativity and the artistic outlet is what draws you to
actually
this.
It is, yes.
And then that you mentioned before about seeing the shape of the girl and knowing what works for that. So does that play into it as well? So
I analyse them. It's funny because I might even be out and I don't realise I'm staring at someone, but I'm not actually staring at them. I'm actually I analyse everything. So when I create something, I have to have a muse, whether it be butterflies dancing across my windscreen while I'm in a traffic jam, which got me which got me a dress that won 2 awards.
Oh wow!
Because those little butterflies were what ended up being the feathers that I had been wanting to use, and I didn't know how to apply them. And as soon as I saw these butterflies, I knew how I was going to make this dress.
Wow!
So when I see brides, and I always ask them to bring their inspiration, I look at their figure shape, and I look at the ideas, and it's like a jigsaw. Everything's like a jigsaw to me. I'll analyse them right down to the last little thing, like whether there's something that we might need to hide, whether there's something we want to accentuate, everything. So for me, it's a puzzle. It's it's almost like trying to decipher. I think it's like that. When it is.
And how do you know, like, that you have gained the satisfaction of getting it right, or does it make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. A few things. One, Actually, one which is really, really obvious is when it's near the end. There are other steps in between, but when it's near the end and the girls are almost like in tears and we're all in tears, and but they're happy tears, and they're just so happy. When I get text messages from them, often the day after their wedding, like literally because I always wish them a happy day, and the last thing you would sort of think is that they're going to respond the day after the first day of married life, and I'll often get texts saying, thank you so much. When they're leaving, they're often sort of giving me a hug goodbye and saying, oh, what are we going to do on our Saturdays? We're going to miss our get-togethers. And throughout the fittings, which is good, I've never let it go to my head. They're often, it's something that my husband noticed when he's been in the study and they've had the door open between the studio and the study. And he said it's lucky that I'm humble, because he said otherwise I wouldn't be able to get my head through the door, because often he says, oh, they said you're amazing, they said you're fantastic. Like, did they? He's like, yeah, you're completely oblivious to it, it's perfect. But for me, you can see when they're happy. Okay. You can see, and
so
to me
it's not just you looking back at your creation on this one individual. I mean, that plays into it, and you look back
plays a part
and
for
go,
me, yes.
wow, that worked.
Yes.
But it's also their reaction.
Absolutely.
And they go, yes, I'm really satisfied.
And their mother's
really
reaction,
happy.
or whoever they bring as their entourage, And then to get a text message the day after saying, thank you so much. Without you, the day wouldn't have gone ahead. And it's funny because I had someone say to me, they said, don't you get stressed that the happiness of their wedding relies on the fact that they're happy with their dress? And I never thought of that.
Oh, okay,
Because I always make sure that they leave with something that they're really happy with.
Yes, and knowing that's the case, and you get that response. Yeah,
and for me, yes, it's the dress, but it's also the journey that we take together. I mean, I know it sounds really cliche, but each step the dress evolves, and either the style stays the same, or the dress evolves into, so they might want something plain, and then we start adding lace, so it starts to have almost like a personality of its own, and they're a part of that, so they actually see it evolve. They see the photos that they get from every fitting, and it's a really beautiful feeling.
So just taking that back to, I'm just thinking of you when you talked about Cinderella. Like, I remember watching that and going, wow, those dresses are beautiful, and then I just moved on. You didn't move on.
No.
You took that. I just can't imagine how much that not affected you, but how much you the additional part that you saw in that.
So the additional part, so a more recent example would be, recent, maybe a decade ago, Beauty and the Beast, which had what was the girl's name from Harry Potter? And she played.
I didn't watch it.
Okay, that was a more modernised version, but everyone was going, oh, that was a beautiful movie. I was there watching the movement of the skirt, how the skirt moved, because that wasn't a cartoon, it was real life. What they used to puff it out. So when I was obviously younger, it was more just seeing, wow, look at this beautiful dress. And it wasn't so much, I had nothing really, I don't even really care about the Prince Charming bit. It was literally just seeing her in this big beautiful blue dress and her hair's up, and for me, whatever I wanted to do, I knew that it was going to be creative. So that's when that started, back with my the origin story. So that's always been there. When I was studying when I was at the news agency getting all these magazines, I would literally analyse, because back then there was no such thing as the internet, so it was only what was put into publications.
Yes.
I would analyse these dresses. How were they put together? Did that suit that person?
Wow.
What sort of materials did they use underneath to make it, say, hard or soft? Or, then when I went to TAFE, I remember we got interviewed, and originally I was actually going to go into baby wear. Okay. I thank God I didn't do that.
No, I can't imagine you doing baby wear.
That pretty much left, and we were able to, with TAFE, I made sure that so for the first year you were learning more basics, you had to learn all the manufacturing side of it.
So was that regardless of which area you were going into?
So whether you went
a foundation for everybody.
Yep. Whether you went into custom or commercial, I took the commercial strand, because I always thought I was going to have a large fashion label as far as mass production and that. So the first year was literally learning the construction of everything, because you can't, some people try, but I personally think unless you know how something's put together, it's like you can't really build a house unless you know what you're going to use to make the concrete. Or,
and know which material will do the job that you want it to do.
Like the Three Little Pigs.
Yeah.
So I have always have, and I still am inspired by what happens around me. So my first year where we were able to come up with a range, it was activewear, because I started going heavily into fitness. Then I met my now husband, and I then, what was it? That was no, anyway, either way. And then I did a fantasy one where...
a fantasy activewear?
No, sorry. Activewear was... So we had 4 semesters after that, because it was a 3-year course. And the first year was literally just learning all the construction of everything, where you were not allowed to be more than... You were only allowed a maximum of 2 mils out.
Oh, okay.
If you were... Some were a nil out. If you were out, you had to go back and redo it. So I learned very quickly. Because for me back then, close enough was good enough. My teacher had her little tape measure, and I learned very fast. I didn't want to keep redoing this. And I'm very competitive, so there's myself and another, which you don't know about. No. Between myself and another student, we would always, it was good, we're good rivals for each other to try to improve on each other and to try to outdo to best.
So that competitive aspect has always been there.
Always
and you find that is what drives you.
I think if you're in this, well, not just this industry, but to be in this industry, you have to be competitive. You have to have that competitive nature. You can't just go, I'm just going to try this and try that. Maybe once you're well established, I feel like I'm not as competitive now as I'm definitely not as competitive now as what I was in the beginning.
Do you feel you don't need to be competitive anymore?
I'm still competitive, but I'm more established. So now, through word of mouth, I mean, yes, I am still competitive, but it's not like what it was when I first started. When I first started, there was no name, there was no, and now word of mouth, even though you've got the website, you've got the other advertising, I now have this brand that I've had, another lady just recently, she didn't go anywhere else. I thought she was going to go somewhere else because we have clients from interstate. We used to have them from overseas occasionally before COVID. She's from Townsville. And I thought that I was one of a few people she would be seeing. I found out afterwards I was the only person she was seeing. And that has happened a few times. I've got one lady who in her testimonial said she travelled 8 hours to come and see me by car. She hadn't seen anyone else. I didn't realise that until I read her testimonials. I thought she was seeing other people up here. And they've just come to me either because they've seen the work I do, they've been referred to me, the Townsville lady was referred to me, they've read my testimonials and that way. So
you've put in all that work over those years, and now you are reaping those rewards, so to speak, and still in the entire time maintaining that creative, artistic outlet.
And quality too. The quality has to be there. The personal service, like it's almost been made easier because I think customer service has really declined. Like
I totally agree.
So when and I don't ask them to tell me which shop they were at or whatever, and also it's gone are the days, like when I was selling, when I was in retail, you had to push for that sale, it was almost like you had to say, okay, so which one are you going to take, this one or this one? It's almost like assuming they're going to do it. When I give them my quote, they have got days, sometimes weeks to decide to do, unless it's, like I said, the quickie. So there's no pressure there for them. It's like, here it is. This is what you're up for. When I hear stories about how they went to a shop and there was this pressure, like, oh, if you buy now, we'll give you 10% off, or if you give us a testimonial, we'll give you 10% off. Things like that. So
that actually leads me into the next question.
Did I explain that beginning one properly, the origin?
Yes, I think that was explained quite well, because when did you decide? Well, let's just go back to that a little bit. So it says it's when you decided
to go into bridal.
I'm actually thinking more into clothing, because you've answered that. So you went from high school into TAFE.
I decided I definitely, after taking a year off, so I finished year 10.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, no, I finished year 12.
Yeah.
And I made sure that I had enough credits or whatever it was that needed to either go to TAFE or, and I knew I would go to university because what I wanted to do was creative, was with the hands.
Yes.
But actually, back then, one of my other ideas was, and it was still fashion though, I actually wanted to be a fashion editor.
Okay.
So it was still fashion, but I did a double, double major. So I did 4 years worth of English in 2 years to at least have that leeway to go if I wanted to go. Into the editing, like talking about fashion and that sort of thing.
So what is it that led you to go down this path and not that one?
Okay, one thing was at the time, which I only started a year after I finished my course, that at TAFE they then did meld with I think one of the university campuses down there to include English and all the literature side of fashion. So after I left, but I don't know if I would have. I don't know. I don't think I would have gone down that way because even though it was available then, I had then learned after doing so. I did the activewear. I then did the fantasy, which sort of then led to me like, wow, I love this. Like just being, it's still wearable, but it's wearable art, something a bit different. Then doing menswear because I was working in a menswear. I was working for Oxford when Oxford only had menswear, doing my own range there, like dyeing all the fabrics, having them all natural fibres, and then doing the bridal range, which was the last one. And that's where I thought I love. I've always loved evening dresses, always. And so at the end of my 3rd year, I knew that's where I'd love to go. Yeah. I knew that I didn't want to be in Canberra. That's where I've been grown my whole life. I thought I'd either have to go to Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane. And my boyfriend, who's now my husband, we decided to come to the Gold Coast. And he was very supportive and actually loaned me the money in the beginning because he said, look, we're going to treat this like a business and separate. But that was when we were doing the activewear. When I first moved up here, the activewear, there was a lot of work involved as far as things were just starting to go out of Australia, like Lorna Jane and Rockwear were still in Australia and Brisbane and here in Helensvale, but they just started to go offshore. And it was boring. Yeah, it was just so boring, and I couldn't. Like, it got to the stage where I just thought, if I have to make another pair of black leggings, well, I didn't make it. I had a CMT company, a cut, make and trim company that would do that, and I just thought, I hate this. It's really boring. Yeah. And then I was lucky enough, actually, because I did do a little bit of bridal wear down in Canberra, but I stopped because I didn't have enough. I don't know if it's knowledge or it's not. A bit of knowledge. When I had some confrontations, because back then, if someone wanted a particular design, I would just do what they wanted. Okay. So it was giving me what they want as opposed to what they needed. And then when things weren't working out, and I also didn't have all the experience, and also dealing with conflict resolution, which you develop over time. And then, funnily enough, you and Susan needed someone who didn't hire out wedding dresses, and you actually asked me if I'd be interested in making them. And I sat down and wrote the pros and cons and decided, okay, I'll give this a go. And that's where it started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, no, it is. That is exactly where it started.
Oh, really?
Yep. It is. Yeah, no, that's where it started. And then I still had a lot to learn. And then I realised a few years in, because I got really, I'm not bored, but it was like, I wanted to have my own designs. I wanted to have more influence over what the client was wearing. Yes. Not influence in a bad way, but influence in going, wow, look at this.
It sounds like it talks back to what you're saying earlier about that creative outlet, but also knowing, like you have been talking about being a professional, having that skill set and being able to apply it. Yeah. Which is, I mean, knowing it and applying it, yes, I feel are two different things.
Yes. And what I learned at TAFE really was just, when you look at everything, so that was back in, that's like, oh my God, 25, 30 years ago. Looking at what we learned back then was really just the foundation. It was really just the basic bit where you then go, they usually then say go and work somewhere and gain that experience. They actually, it was funny because I actually won the award there for being the most expected to be the most entrepreneurial.
Okay. Yeah.
I never wanted to work for anybody.
Yes.
I always wanted to work for myself. I didn't want to. I know they say you've got to start from the bottom up. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be in a factory where all I was doing was just cutting out this, or just because to me that's. It's not so much that I felt it belittled me. It was only because it was boring.
Yes. Yeah.
So going into this, I'd started a family at the time as well. So it gave me the opportunity just to take on a little bit at a time, still spend time with my family, and then develop the skill from that.
Yeah.
And then when there was a little bit of a light bulb moment when we were looking at building the new place, and we were going through all these houses, display homes, and at the end of the day only two stood out, and it's because there was something different about them.
Okay.
And then that dawned on me, like, oh, brides are doing the same thing. They're going into all these shops, they're seeing the same thing everywhere.
Okay.
And that's when I decided, right, I'm going to go down this track. It's a much smaller niche. It's not mass. But because it is a smaller niche, you've got people who, like myself, like I will always have a custom built house. I won't go and buy a spec home because there's too many changes I want to do. And that's literally how I associated it with me, because at the time we were looking at building. To then when they're coming to me, and now everything's nearly offshore, so by the time something comes in, you've then got to have pay for alterations as well. I decided I'm going to go for this niche market, went down that track, and then you're more likely to be remembered, and that has happened. Like girls will come in and say, I love that your designs are different, I love that it's not all the same. Or the girls will come in and say, whatever you do, just don't show me what I've seen everywhere else.
Okay.
They want to be, they want something that's them. They're spending a lot of money on something that they will usually only ever wear once. They want it to be a representation of them.
Okay. Like an extension of their personality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it sounds like, so you've always had this creative outlet.
Always.
And you've gone down a few, like, even with the clothing and materials, you've done the study, and then you just didn't want to be stifled with that, and so you knew that was where you needed to be, and you've gone down a few different pathways, like saying with the activewear, and then just found this was where you shine, so to speak, and can really express who you are.
Yes.
And see the joy and extend that into the girls.
Absolutely. Actually, it's funny because I have people in the industry saying, "Oh, we knew that was your design." It's like, that's a HCD design. I'm like, really? I really tried to make it different. No, it's definitely you.
Yeah.
The quality, like even the dry cleaners. When I've gone to see the dry cleaner, they say, "Always know it's your dress," because the quality.
Yeah. So that actually leads me into the next question, which is we have talked to this. What makes you a good fit for this profession? So from what I'm hearing, is definitely the creativity, but and you've definitely got the abilities and the skills there. But what I am curious about are your values. Like I'm hearing you talk about what goes in and what makes it a good dress, but I would like to hear from you. What's your take on your values and how does that apply to this?
Okay, so with the value, there's always that making sure they get that value for money type thing, but the value. Okay, so there's a few things. The value is obviously not just when I say value for money. It's yes, because you can get a dress anywhere. So it's something that is going to suit their personality. It's also the process, all the processes going through it too. So it's like with them, yes, they've got this dress at the end, but it's all the steps in between. It's listening to them. Yes, sometimes you're a psychologist yourself because they will come in with problems, whether it be stress from an external factor, being mother-in-law or someone throwing their 2 cents in. But I want them to feel that when they walk away with their product, they haven't just walked away with their product, they've walked away with, how can I phrase it? It's like, it's something that they treasure forever because it's the whole experience.
I was going to say, they walk away with an experience and a really positive experience.
Yeah.
And when you talked to me the other day about, and when you moved into this place and you wanted the experience. So from the minute they look through the door there and come through this area, the experience begins.
Yes. Yeah. To the point where you actually hear a big sigh of relief because you hear the door open and close and you hear them go. And when they walk in, I used to think there was too many dresses on display, but it's been the opposite. They just said they feel like a kid in a lolly shop, or to be able to see things like that, they actually feel like they're turning into the Cinderella. Like they're the Cinderella who's come. This is all about them. The appointments are all one-on-one. They have to be pre-booked. So there's no interruptions with phone calls or other people coming in. It's just solely about them.
So it sounds like you really value your client.
Absolutely.
As in their experience.
Yes.
Their so it's not an income to you. I mean, it is an income, but it's so much.
If it was
more
about
than
money,
that.
I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Now I would. Now I'm finally, because I've only just had my business doctor tell me my worth. But if it was just about money in the beginning, no. It's if my client's unhappy, I'm unhappy.
Yeah. So you value adding to a person's experience.
Absolutely.
And value them as a human.
Yes. And some of the things I hear when I read back in their testimonials is they talk about how I'm down to earth, my passion, their experience with, they say it's an experience that you just want, you know, going into a shop and trying on dresses. And that they just say that it's such a lovely experience that they will treasure forever.
If we take a step back, I'm still going to talk with values. No, it's okay. I just want to kind of just still on values.
Yes.
If we take a step back, values. Actually, I've written it down here. I had it in a little bit. Okay. So in terms of your values, when you reflect on why you chose this career path, do you think your values have changed?
Yeah. Yes. Let me think. So, in the beginning, it was more just because I was not, what did I want to say? Well, actually, compared to now, I was inexperienced. So back then, it was just producing a dress for them. So they'd come and go, design me this. But now it's but now it's no.
Can I just reword that a little bit for you? So, I'm not seeing your values change. What I'm seeing is your value, you have identified it and it's coming out more. And what I mean by that is, from the beginning, you're saying that you need to be creative. And in the early days, you just, not just wanted an income, but it was an income source to you, but you weren't satisfied. It was kind of if you kept it as a purely an income source, I feel you would feel stifled, and I think you would agree with that because you said you went down tried different avenues for it. So that value of probably creativity and giving the person the experience, like I keep coming back to what they need, what they want.
It really is the experience, because I even think with their appointments, when they come in, we have just such a good time. Like sometimes I've had ones where I've had clients where they're quite happy to sing along to a song, and we'll just be I'll be working on them, and we'll both be singing. It's like we've got a lot. There's a lot of them. We're now friends on Facebook, so it's like, oh, we must be friends because we're
of course.
So it's really something. It's almost like they say that the wedding, that their experience with me was secondary after their wedding.
Okay, yeah.
Like they just said the experience of the wedding was up here, and then I was like next. And so with the values, I think I've just honed in on it more and tried to work out ways of making it more pleasant for them. Also, probably making it more pleasant for me to avoid problematic situations.
Because I think in that way, when you're saying, if you tune into your values and can work to them, then your strengths, I believe your strengths come out. And it sounds to me like you've been doing progressing in that area this whole time, and now you're in a position, because you've been doing it for so long, where you can see what's important to you. And I know from your honesty is a huge value that you have, and that definitely plays into it. And it plays into it in the sense that you want to make sure that these girls have an honest, true experience of what they want. I just want to
Things gone. Like.
I don't know. I'm still. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Still, I wasn't sure.
I've got some. I'm just really enjoying this. I hope you're okay.
No, it's okay.
Continue
Actually,
on.
another thing too is not to try to be. When they say down to earth, because sometimes I've had clients come in and they think, oh, I'm not going to be able to afford this, and they just say that for them as well, with value for money for them, they just can't believe that even with the price, that even without the remedy to it, they're saying, wow, that's still such a good price, because buying it in the shop, you just go in and then you've got to order, and then they say in the shop that this will be custom made to you, but really all they're saying is we're using this size top, this size bottom, or whatever, or you'll just get it and then you've got to change.
It makes me think of Lego. Where little Lego people. Yeah. You take the head and the body and the. And
then they're referred to you through someone else saying, oh, you did their dress. I've just got this and it's supposed to be custom made to me. And what do you mean custom made? They said, well, they've got my measurements and it was made overseas. That's not custom made.
Yeah. This is custom made.
But I don't want to say that to them because I don't want to upset them. So when they come in, I've had girls who have literally been on the verge of tears, and I've had to sort of be careful what I say instead of saying, oh my God, what the hell have they done here? It's like, okay, we thinking positive. We can look for the silver lining. It's like, okay, we can do this. It'll cost about this much, but we can do this to this, and then they leave really happy when it's finished. Actually, not with the value. I think it was actually it's not just value for the clients too. It's also value. Something my dad said to me. He's always had his own business, and you've got to value your employees too. So, because without them, and also valuing your subcontractors, like they're the ones that actually help you, who prop you up, and value also. I know it's probably you're only asking for the clients, but with the help that you get from value the people that support you, like when I wasn't able to afford to have employees, and my mother-in-law would be helping me. And my husband, he always helps me wherever he can. There's value, their value because their time. Yes. I know it's a different type of value, but I really value that too, because without the support of the people who've helped me get to where I am now, that's right, my employees, my dad always said to me, he said, to show your employees value, pay them more than what the going rate is, and then that show you that their value is higher, and they're less likely to leave. And we've always done that. We've always paid above the award wage, to the point where I remember in the beginning, and I'd have to go pick the kids up from school, and I'd say, come on guys, we've got to finish. They'd go, no, I just want to do this, I'll be 10 more minutes, you go, and I could leave them, and they'd lock up. And
so it's valuing. So to me, it sounds like relationships and valuing a human. And respecting their dignity.
And not just going, okay, you're here doing this, and like one of my employees who was with me for years until she had to leave to look after her parents, she used to do work in mass production, and she didn't want to come over. I kept asking her because I knew I would only ever have people who I knew, because it's a close environment. And when Carol eventually came to work for me, it was like, she actually said it was like going to a resort, because where she used to work, it was everything was. Yes, you're timed with it, but everything had to be timed within a second. Like we learned that when we were doing commercial at TAFE as well, because obviously, every second adds the dollars. As here, it was like, slow down, Carol. We need to do this a little bit slower. It will take longer, but that's why I've incorporated that into the
price. So it's putting that quality into the product. So I like to think of values as something that we're born with. That's just my take on it, and I think particularly the core values that we're born with, and they show up not just in our profession, but across the board.
Absolutely.
And and I think it's those values that are our beacons that guide us in what we do and how we produce that.
And people see that. They can see when that and they appreciate it.
Yeah. So
or feel it, I should say. They can feel it.
So you bring your whole self.
Yes.
Into this environment.
Yes.
And into your profession.
I say to people, I think I said it earlier, is it's hard to say where Helena Couture Design stops and Helena Karkovic starts because it is literally a part of me.
Yeah.
There were 2 years when my kids were little and they didn't want me to work over Christmas. So I didn't work during Christmas, and they were literally the 2 most depressing Christmases I've ever had. Yeah. I mean, I spent time with my family, but I'd wake up and go, oh, I could just do this, because it was literally stifling my creativity. Yes. I'd have an idea or something, and it was like I couldn't go. I literally had to tie my hands behind my back because I wanted to go and touch it or do something. And after that, I decided, no, I'll just sort of tone down on somebody else. I can spend time with them when I need to, but then if something I want to do comes up, I can go and do it.
So if you don't have that creative outlet, you don't feel as a whole person.
No.
You don't function as well as you could.
If I can't express my creativity, even now when you came, I was going to take the morning off because I'd done some late nights finishing that dress. I just thought, oh, I've got an idea. I'm just going to keep doing this a little bit. And seriously, those 2 hours, when you knocked on, oh my God, it just went so fast. And I was literally beaming with happiness.
Yeah. So you're so fortunate that you have found an outlet for who you are.
Yes.
I'm going to come. I'm just going to jump ahead. Yes. We've kind of jumped into that. Let me just find where it was. Talking about a whole person. That's kind of what I'm quite interested in it. So when I was younger, I compartmentalised my life. So particularly like my relationships, as my profession, particularly with my profession, and then I became a wife, so I was a wife. I became a mother, I think you know that that's exactly what I've done. And I've only just realised that I was never a whole person in all the things that I did. I was Karen the friend, and then I'd step back, and then I was Karen the wife, or Karen whatever job I was doing at the time. Do you feel, have you ever done that? Or were you doing that in the beginning, and did you come, because you're saying now that you're it's your whole person. Was that always the case for you, or did you come to that?
I think it was always there. I even think back to, oh my God, no, it was always there. Like when the fashion was always how I would present myself, what I would wear in Canberra, whether it was going to be a cold day or a rainy day. I'd have 2 outfits ready the night before for the next day. It was always there. Whenever we go somewhere on holidays or just walking somewhere, I'm always analysing how something's been, especially in the beginning. How did they put this together? How did they do that? It's really hard for me to No, I don't think I do. Do I compartmentalise, say, with the ladies' day to the... we don't.
No.
We don't. It's all mixed. For me, it is. It's literally all mixed.
We know.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah. But it's...
No, I don't feel that you do. And I think that's kind of why I'm asking that question. It's like for someone who does compartmentalize, what advice would you give that person?
Oh, wow.
Or how do you know? I mean, that might be a harder question to answer because you haven't done it.
I really don't think I've ever done it. Even when I'm with my husband, we might sometimes start talking about, actually it's like we might talk about work a bit. It has always been there, always. Even when, the only time I probably, I can't analyse them. So if, say, for instance, because there are bridezillas, and sometimes probably the only time I've tried to compartmentalise work is if I've had a really difficult client. And the only reason I try to compartmentalise then is because I have to step away to not be absorbed into that negativity, because when they are having a go at, it doesn't happen very often, but they're not happy about something, it's still a direct reflection of me, so I take it personally.
So is that compartmentalising? Really?
I think it is. I think it is, and that's really probably the only time I do it because I don't want to have that negativity around me. I mean, it's still definitely there in the back of my mind. Like I try to push it away and then deal with it when I can. And then I will also talk to other people in a way where I try to be as diplomatic as possible about, but try to talk about both sides to see if it's warranted with their reaction or whether I do need to, because I'm too close, because it is too close a situation with me, so you often can't think rationally. So I will get, by trying to be, when I speak about it, by trying to be a third party, saying, okay, this is what has happened here and this is what has happened here, without trying to be biased. I think I've
so
done
you try to be objective, take a step back, objectify, just look at the facts, and then give yourself time to...
I've learned to give myself time because in the beginning I'd react straight away, think I've got to try to sort this out now, but everyone's emotional and obviously it doesn't matter what you say or do, you're always going to get blamed. Often when I will then step back, write down some point forms, possibly even actually some of my testimonials. There was one case where it got really bad. We brought the lawyers and the police were involved, and it was only when the police were involved that I realised I was actually in the right.
Okay.
But then COVID hit and it didn't go any further. So that's probably the only time I compartmentalise, and it's literally only because I have to not let that overtake my whole...
Seep into the other parts of your life.
Because then I get anxious and then that affects my family, when we're all an anxious family, and so that's the only other time. Otherwise, when I'm really happy, I definitely talk to other people about it. I might mention certain things to my husband. Like my husband meets a lot of my bride because they might be waiting here in the foyer. To the point where I'm like, come on guys, oh yes, I just want to say one more thing, but that's probably the only thing I compartmentalise, because I definitely know when we're doing the fittings, we often bring our family into it. We talk about the kids. We've had ones where I've done a particular bride and then I've done her formal dress, and then a few years later I've done her dress and her mum's with us. She's, how old are the kids? And so definitely, it's definitely on the, I don't know how would I explain to you how would I? I don't know. I think some people survive better that way. I think it just depends on what works best for you. Everyone's different. If there are definitely people who need to compartmentalise. So, if you've watched all those FBI shows and that, you have to have your little things to separate. But I'm not built that way. I don't even know if I could even begin to. I think you need to talk to someone who actually can compartmentalise. I need to talk to Tony.